Officer of the St. Louis Public Schools, Mr. Rick Sullivan.
Representative El-Amin, and to all of you, thank you for the opportunity to talk this evening. I think one of the issues that I have encountered so far is the amount of inaccurate information and the amount of, say, the lack of information that is in the community about what's going on in St. Louis schools. And I'll point to a piece of paper that you all received tonight that addresses 5 specific things regarding Rick Sullivan, 3 of which are completely inaccurate, 2 are only partly accurate. And I hope that that's not what we talk about tonight. I hope that what we talk about are the students and what it takes for better education in St. Louis Public Schools. Let me share with you the main focus of what the St. Louis School Leadership Team is working on right now. The focus is on 2 things: preparing for the opening of school August 20th and the entire school year that will start on that same day. A lot of work is going into getting schools ready, our entire curriculum in line, all of the supplies in place, and certainly to be much more prepared for school than this district was just 1 year ago. The other thing is a plan that's clear, that's concise, that really addresses what's going on in the school district. And let me share just a little bit about what that is, but this is all information that you all know already. We have a very low number of students who score well on the ACT test. Less than 15% score 21 or better. That makes it very challenging for 86% of our students to get into a good college after graduation. At the 3rd grade, we have a high number of students who cannot read at the 3rd grade level. And that only gets worse as the grades go higher. Math and sciences are even more challenging. And what we're working on is a measurement, a plan where we know school by school exactly what those different measurements are. We want to know grade by grade exactly what those measurements are. How well are the 1st graders reading? How well are the 6th graders doing in math? We'll have exact measurements. We'll know what those measurements were last year. We'll know what those measurements were the year before. We'll know what they are at the start of this school year. And when we get to the end of next school year, we can look at that information. Certainly throughout the school year, we'll look at that information and we'll ask, what do we need to make it better? What does a particular teacher need? What professional development can we assist them with? Is there more aids in the classrooms that are needed to raise the skills of our students? So it's a challenging task. It's going to take a lot of work, but it's pretty straightforward. We ought to be able to know how well the children are learning. We ought to be able to understand what it takes to help them, and then find a way to provide those resources in the classroom. We're trying to measure a number of things. We're trying to increase the number of 8th graders that participate in algebra. If you're not taking algebra in the 8th grade, you cannot possibly do well on the ACT test when you graduate. If you are a 5th grader who can only do 2nd grade math, you really have no opportunity to be successful as a 6th grader. These are basic things. These are things that each and every one of us knew and understood and dealt with when we were in grade school and high school. And a lot of this is back to those basics. So I just want that to be my opening remarks, and we'd be happy to answer any questions, discuss any topic that you all would like to talk about. Yes, ma'am. I don't have an answer to your question, but it's a great question. What she wants to know is, like every school district everywhere, we have students that have learning disabilities. I have 2 children who have ADD and ADHD. So the first thing, ma'am, I know is to diagnose every one of those children, make sure we know exactly what their challenges are. And then we've got to find a way to bring the resources to the classroom. Special ed teachers that are trained in dyslexia, I can't say it, and other learning challenges to make sure that those kids have the same chance when they take those standardized tests. I'm not going to say I have the answer to that, but I know that's what we've got to focus our resources on. So I take this gentleman's question, Nick, and then go to you. This man's asked the same question I'm asked over and over again. What is my background in education? I have a college degree. Have I studied? Have I been trained to be an educator? No, I have not. But I do not believe that that is the requirement for any school board member, nor is it the requirement for the specific position that I have within the school district, which is the CEO. My responsibility is to help organize. My responsibility is to help develop that plan. My responsibility is to help bring the resources to the community that are going to better educate the kids. I've said before, and I'll say again, I am going to leave the specifics of education to the professionals. I can't tell you what it takes to get 100% of our students scoring better on an ACT test. I can't tell you what it takes to get third graders reading at the third grade level, but I think I know, like everybody else in this gymnasium, that's critical. That has to happen. So when the educators say, here's what we need, here's the training that our teachers need, here's the skills that our principals need, here are the services that our special needs our students need, it's my responsibility to bring those needs to the table, bring those resources to the table, and I'm here to ask the community to help and participate with that. Sir, did that answer your question? Okay, well, it did, but it's not the answer you wanted. You want to know that I have a background in education as an educator, and simply I do not. Yes. I'm not being an educator. I'm not being a teacher. I'm assisting the teachers, I'm assisting the principals, and I'm assisting the school leadership in providing what they need. So you can assist brain surgeons without being a brain surgeon. Yes, ma'am. The question is, given a lot of the issues regarding the condition of the schools and the condition of the food, why has Sodexo and Airmark been rehired? And I don't believe either of them were rehired. They are in the middle, or near the end of contracts that were already in place. There was a lot of inaccurate information that these contracts were going to be terminated. There are significant penalties for terminating the contracts. When those contracts expire, we will reissue a request for proposals from professional providers of those services looking for new proposals from those agencies. Will also have an opportunity, but we will be looking for others to provide both the food service and the cleaning and the maintenance service for the schools. But I think, again, one of those misinformations is that they were rehired. They have a contract, they're continuing to execute the contract. The only action that the previous board or the special administrative board could have taken was to terminate the contract of either of those agencies, and there were significant penalties to do that. Both, I don't believe the SLPS board took any action. The special administrative board has not, but we've looked at the fact that there are significant penalties to it and have concluded we need to get to the end of those contracts before we take any further action. Ma'am, can I go to the gentleman behind you? The gentleman's question was, why are we only looking at test scores? Why are we not looking at very specific things that are preventing our students from learning the way they should? And let me clarify that. We're not only looking at test scores. That's a starting point. We'll have basic information to measure where are the kids now, where were they last year, where are they a year from now, where will they be, where should they be 3 years from now. And we're going to say to the community, here's where we think they should be. When they're not, we've got to figure out what it is. There are so many factors that affect the way a child learns. And at the end of the day, again, this is why the community is so important in participating in this. I'm not an educator, but I know that if a student shows up for school 80% of the time, he or she cannot succeed. We need the community, parents, family, whomever, to have those kids in school every day. Certainly nearly every day, because the child who's missing weeks, months at a time has no chance of succeeding. And that goes on a lot. There are health issues. There are special need issues. There are basic food, basic housing needs that we need to make a part of this process. And again, we need the community to help with that. There is a significant breakfast and lunch program. We need to make sure that the kids are at school on time to get that breakfast. We need to make sure that they eat a nutritious lunch. They have options to them. They have options available for them. Pizza, nachos, hot dogs. Come help us convince those kids to eat what, where'd the gentleman go who was just here, said, come help convince us to eat those, for those kids to eat fruit and vegetables, not the other stuff that's served. Yes, sir. The gentleman was referring to funds that are held that are part of the DSEG agreement, and many people certainly believe belong to the District of St. Louis, the St. Louis Public Schools. And ask the question, why is the Special Administrative Board not going after that money? And sir, I commit to you that it is our intention to do just that. That money was set aside, and I have to tell you that not all of it is in place. It was funded over about a 12 or 13-year period of time. It has several more years of payments to be made. The city is, the public school system, St. Louis Public Schools are required by law today to hold that money. It is being held. The good news out of it is that there is interest income coming to the district, but we're not able to use those funds, and that's unfortunate. When that fund was established, it had very specific purposes for how that money could be used, and it was primarily intended to build new facilities. We have a situation today where we have more schools than we really need. There are 93. We certainly don't need that many. So we need to go back and convince the people who are involved in this process the original intention for those funds simply isn't applicable today.